like with Google Meet, they have the caption, and that
Yeah.
tends to work.
So, and we are live. Hello everyone, Faiza Yousuf here, and we have Roopali with us today, and she'll be talking about imposter syndrome. I'm going to shut up now, and Roopali can go ahead. Thank you so much.
Hi, everyone. My name is Roopali Chaudhary, and I am going to be talking about imposter syndrome today and what is holding you back. So I figured I should start with a little bit of background on who I am. So I do identify as a female or a woman. So my pronouns would be she or her. I am South Asian, but I'm specifically Indian. And I am also half Canadian in the sense that I've been living in Canada for many years. So I am an Indo-Canadian who's been residing in Canada for, I don't know, more than 20 years. I am a proud scientist who has turned into an entrepreneur and is also a baker. So this image that you're seeing on here is an image that I took during my PhD using a microscope. And this is an intestinal tissue. It's the mouse intestine tissue that I did some staining on, and then I took an image. So the blue here shows you all the different cells that are in the intestine. You have the green that shows you the cell membranes. You have red here that is a specific protein. And then this is the merge of all three images. And you'll notice that there is a difference between how the green and the red manifests. And that's part of the research that I did. But I'm not going to talk about my research itself. I'm just very proud of this image. I think it's a really beautiful image. So I also thought it would be interesting for you to know a little bit about my STEM journey. So here's a very short journey. I went to 10 different schools between kindergarten and 12th grade or 12th standard. When I moved to Canada, there was actually a 13th standard, which was called OAC at the time. And I decided I wasn't going to do this 13th. So I what we called fast tracked. So I just did 12, up to 12, but I took all the courses for the 13th grade as well. I've lived in 4 different countries. I've lived in Kuwait, India, Saudi Arabia, and Canada. I've been to 3 different universities from my bachelor's degree, my master's degree, and then my PhD. I worked on multiple models. So these are my research models that I would have worked on. I know more than 40 lab techniques. And I say wet lab techniques because then there's techniques that you learned that you use the computer for specifically. A lot of data analysis you would be doing, a lot of the microscopy images that you would have taken. The wet lab part would be how you stain the cells, and then taking the imaging, the microscopy it's not considered a wet lab technique. So I know 40 plus of those. I switched my discipline after every degree. So when I first entered my bachelor's, I was in molecular genetics, molecular biology. And then I did my master's and I switched my field then. Then from my master's to my PhD, I switched my field again. And then PhD to what is called a postdoctoral fellowship, I switched my field again. And in fact, I actually went into a field that I'd never taken a course in immunology. So I was very, very new into it. I now run a nonprofit called Lotus STEMM, and I also have a bakery on the side. So overall, you'd think that I am, on paper, a very accomplished person. But this was a tweet I put out a few months ago. You want to know how real imposter syndrome is? I have lived experiences as a South Asian woman in STEM, but I am unsure about my identity as South Asian, as a woman in STEM, and what my experiences are. And I question if I can talk about them. And I really want you to think about that for a moment. I just sat here for the last little bit telling you all these things about me. But I also wonder, am I South Asian enough? I was born in India. I was raised with very traditional mindsets. I hold on to a lot of those traditions. I was raised around South Asians up until the age of 13 when I moved to Canada. But then my whole life, I've never really been accepted into the Indian community because I'm not Indian enough. But I'm not accepted in the Canadian community because I'm too Indian. So this brings a conflict for me. Am I really South Asian? Can I use that as an identity factor? Then comes the question about being a woman in STEM. What does that mean? We have women who are actively involved in not just the research, but the technology development, software development, geology, everything that you would consider that falls in STEM. But I took a step away to run the nonprofit. So am I still someone who would be considered a woman in STEM? And then the experiences that I've had, have my experiences been just my experiences and somehow been my fault? Or is it that my experiences is something that everyone feels? And that is what imposter syndrome is. You question every part of your identity, your accomplishments. So when it comes to being a South Asian woman, I grew up with a little bit of that emphasis on marriage. We need to have you married by a certain point. If you're too educated, it would be hard to find you a husband. And that mentality put a lot of question in my mind about whether or not I'm really a South Asian woman because I didn't adhere to it. Then when it came to being a woman in STEM, I've heard things like, don't get pregnant, you will lose your position. And a position that you worked so hard to get to, maybe I don't mean, or I'm not meant to be in this then. I've heard things like, heard people tell me her postdoc was 7 years because she decided to go on 3 maternity leaves, and with a very negative tone. And that also put a question in my mind. If I want to have a family, or if I have a family, do I deserve to be here? Or is this how other people view me and maybe my skills are not good enough? And then when it comes to experiences, when you bring up conversation about microaggressions, something as simple as, oh, women should dress really nicely to come to work because you don't want someone to think that you don't care about this job. And that emphasis on women should be dressed in a certain way, or men should be dressed in a certain way, or women also should be doing the work at home, or administrative duties should fall on women. Those type of microaggressions, when you bring up those topics and someone gaslights you and tells you, no, it's all in your head, that's not true, we don't do that, but can you continue taking the minutes and bring some tea too? That's gaslighting, that's projection. And that puts a question in your mind. do I deserve to be here? And I know that imposter syndrome is something that it is a heavy topic. And where it comes from, it is feelings of intellectual incompetence. So you not believing, not that you don't fully believe it, but it's you haven't internalized the fact that you are skilled enough to be in that job that you're in right now. You have shown and proven yourself to get that promotion. It's brushing off those accomplishments. When someone tells you, congratulations, oh my God, you got this promotion, you must be so happy. And it's like, well, I just got lucky. Or no, it was nothing. I didn't think anything of it. Or anyone can do it. When you brush off those accomplishments, because you haven't internalized that you deserve those accomplishments. And then there's this fear of being found out. It's when you're working and something that you did has gotten a lot of attention, and you're sitting there being like, I don't know if I can do that again. I don't know if I'm smart enough to be here. Like, look at everyone else. It comes so naturally to them. I have to work so hard. And then you start to question, what am I doing here? I need to work extra hard to make sure that my position here is equivalent to what other people have. So I need to keep doing more, without recognizing that you are already doing a lot and you're already doing just as much as everyone else. But because you only see the behind the scenes for yourself and you don't see behind the scenes of others, it's very easy to fall in this trap of thinking, I think I only got this position because XYZ. Or I think I got lucky. I'm not really sure why. I didn't think I did that good in the interview. Or even saying something like, I think so-and-so did a much better job than I did. I don't think I should be getting this. They should be getting it instead. And you undermine your accomplishments. You undermine your intellectual competency. You keep undermining because you're worried that if someone finds out that you're not as good as they think you are, then you may lose your position. It'll be embarrassing. And imposter syndrome is something that is so common in many, many fields. A lot of these fields are places where you have to work independently, but you have to provide a finished product that is going to be viewed publicly. So we're talking about academics who may be doing the research on their own, or maybe working on a paper on their own, but then that paper gets presented to many people and they give you feedback. So you work on something independently and then it's being shared with many. Journalists really feel it too. Think about any of your professors in university. They have at some point felt like an imposter. 58% of people in tech industry feel like an imposter. 58%. That is from a research done in 2018, and they asked people working at Facebook, Google, Uber, any of the big tech companies that recruit people from around the world. And 58% of the people responded from all stages, going from your developer, the entering developer, all the way up to senior level. They have felt like an imposter, that they don't deserve that position that they need to be in. So the big question that comes is, why? What are some of those reasons that may make you feel like an imposter? And usually I do this in person, but I think maybe not 5 to 7 minutes, maybe you can take 2 to 3 minutes and think about 1 to 2 reasons why you think people would feel like an imposter. And please write it down in the comments section. And I know that Faiza is looking through that, so we can hopefully have a little bit of conversation. So I'll give you 1 to 2 minutes to think about some reasons why you think people may feel like an imposter in their field.
So I'm adding details that people are adding to the chat so that you can take a look
Thank
at
you.
it.
So external pressures, that's a really good one. Conditioning, the social conditioning that we get raised with. Stereotypes, yes, oh my gosh. And I talked about a few of these where this mentality of societal idea of what women and men should be doing. Keyword should. So people dictating what you should and should not be doing. That idea that someone has to oversee your work. And so your work may not be good enough. Not being able to fit in a box, being unique, being viewed as unique, and somehow that being a negative. Not sure why people think this. For not being the person people think you are. That's a very, very good one. And that also ties back into that stereotype and the external pressure to really fit in defined spaces. This is where you should be. And again, the word should comes up. Negative criticism. This is such a big one. Criticism has a negative connotation to it, but when you have negative criticism and you have constant negative criticism, that is your final product being judged by multiple people. So those are really, really good ones. So let's talk about some of these. Perfectionism. That is one. So when we say, oh, sorry, I closed the chat box, but when the point comes that when you work on a project and other people are going to be looking at it and you're getting that negative criticism, and this will tie in with the second point here as well, your idea of what needs to be perfect and that constant need to make sure that it is the best project that you have ever done before you can send it off. And you have put your heart and soul into it and worked on it, really, really spending late nights. You have sacrificed a lot on this, and then you get back that negative criticism. This isn't good enough. That isn't good enough. and you know how hard you worked, and it feels like they've just torn it apart. And you start to think, man, if I have to work this hard, and no matter what I do, I can't seem to get it to be perfect enough. Do I deserve to be here? There's that perfectionism, that need to make sure that whatever you produced is perfect. And then that criticism piece, how you take the criticism. Is the criticism coming back about your work, or is the criticism coming back about you? Are you your work? So you put in your heart and soul into this project. You gave that project over and you got that criticism back. Is that criticism criticizing you as a person? Or is it just criticizing that piece of work? Creating that distinction as well is needed, because when you put that much effort into a project and you get criticism, it is really hard not to take it personally and internalize it and think that that criticism is about you and your work ethic and you as a person. Then there's expectations. We talked about societal expectations, parental expectations, expectations at work, stereotypes. All of these add up. So I'll give you a little bit of a personal story here. As the child of an immigrant coming to Canada, when we moved here, my parents told myself and my siblings that no matter what, you have to be successful. You have to do well in school. You have to go to university. You have to be the best. I had no idea what the best was. So put your head down and you continue to work. And I did really well in high school. But then when I went to university, my first year and my first physics midterm, I failed. And I didn't know how to deal with that. And I couldn't tell my parents that expectation that I needed to be the best. How could I fail? This is just wrong. Do I deserve to be here? Those expectations keep coming back. When you enter work, you have expectations from people around you. You have due dates. When are you submitting this? What format are you going to submit it in? So it comes back to that perfectionism and criticism. When you have all these expectations put on you, you then try to work to perfect your craft. And then whoever you're submitting it to will criticize it. And now you're like, did I not meet their expectation? And so am I the one that doesn't deserve to be here? Those questions start to come into your mind. And that's normal. It's when you start believing those questions, it's when you start to feel like an imposter. And you've like developed this bubble of this, like, I don't belong. And that is the imposter syndrome. The last point here, success and perfectionism with criticism and expectations will all lead to some level of success. But what is success? Are you a successful person for having gotten the job that you have? Are you a successful person for having gone to the university that you did? Are you a successful person for being the first in your family to do fill in the blank? Are you a successful person because you produce projects that are good and are getting promoted? What does success look like? And if you get caught up and I need to make things perfect. And anytime criticism comes back, oh my God, they don't think that I am good enough. I don't meet their expectations. I am not a successful person. And that loop continues with every project. If you keep in that loop, it gets worse. And then it gets worse. And before you know it, you're sitting there thinking, I don't know if I should be here. I have no idea. How did I even end up here? Look at all these other people. They know what they're doing. That's imposter syndrome. So, talking about success, this is something that I really want everyone to take a couple of minutes to think about. And the question comes, how do you define success? What does it mean for you as an individual? And think about motivators: family, money, status, self-value, time for yourself. All of these are points that you need to take into how do you define success. And I don't want you to write this down in the chat. What I would like you to do is, for a minute, I want you to pause and on a piece of paper, write down 4 things that come to your mind about how you define success. So I really hope that you took a little bit of, or it has at least got your gears turning about how you're defining success. And you've written a few things down. I can tell you that I have a whiteboard behind the computer here, and I've actually written down the word success. And I wrote down, what do each of those letters mean to me? So for example, the S, the first S to me is see your goal. I think I can be a successful person if I know where I want to go and I know what my goal is. I would be a successful person if I stay on track. I'm not getting distracted by every little thing. That to me is success. Success to me is also making sure that I've made time for my family, making sure that I've made time for my parents. These are all factors that define what success looks to me. And I'll tell you this as well. This past weekend, I was visiting my parents, and the conversation about me running a nonprofit versus getting a job came up. And my dad told me, I want you to apply to jobs because I want you to be the best. What does the best mean? The best according to who? Because I think currently I'm the best version of myself. So those are ways that other people will influence your definition of success. And you just have to sit and think about, what is it for me? Do I want to make money? Is that my measure of success? And if so, write down a number. How much earning in a year would you consider successful? Or if it is about family, what does it mean? What is a successful family? What is that definition? Right? You want to have that for yourself, not for anyone else. And those are important aspects. So what can you do? I can see that there are questions coming in. So I do want to address some of these, and perhaps what can you do will come up or will answer some of those questions. You feel like an imposter. You feel that it's not some place that you should be, or this work isn't where you you deserve to be at, or this position is not something you feel like you deserve to be at. The first and most important thing is talk about those feelings with someone you trust. It doesn't have to be family. It doesn't have to be friends. It could be someone online. You have a counselor online that you're talking to about this, or you're talking to a pen pal, or you have someone at work that you really trust who feels the same way, and you're having these conversations. Don't keep those feelings inside, because our brains, and the research has shown this, our brains are really, really bad at taking negative thoughts and multiplying them. So the more you talk about these feelings, it'll be very difficult in the beginning to talk about it, but the more you talk about it, it will get easier. And B, when you say the words and you say it out loud to someone else, look at their reaction and listen to what they're telling you. You're not going to internalize what they tell you. They will give you compliments and they'll tell you, no, no, no. Why do you feel this way? You are so good at what you do. And you know this, they will tell you this and you won't internalize it. But you need to talk about it. You need to get it out of your system. That is first the most important thing. The second thing is differentiate between what is a fact and what is a feeling. And what I mean by that is we are very good at telling ourselves we're not good enough. We are very good at nitpicking every little thing about ourselves. But when you go to look at your resume and you have your resume made, one thing that I like in academia is that along with the resume, we have a curriculum vitae, which is our CV. And our CV has every little thing that we have ever done. Every talk, every presentation, every outreach component that we did, every paper we published, etc. Look at your resume and then make something where you write down everything that you did. You worked on which projects? Write down every single project. Write down what your position was in those projects, because those are facts. That is what you've worked on. It's not about you didn't feel like you deserved it. The fact is you worked on it. So it's knowing how to differentiate the fact from the feeling and then taking ownership of those facts. And that is the hard part. You can look at something on paper, it looks great, but you did that. And you need to come to that realization that you did all of those things. The third very important point is growth mindset. For imposter syndrome to be minimized in you, you have to train your brain in a growth mindset format. So instead of telling yourself, oh my God, I did so bad, I don't deserve to be here, change the way you're talking to yourself. You can now say, okay, I didn't know how to do this, but I can learn. I will learn how to do it. I'm not ready to be a project lead, but this is a great opportunity for me to learn how to be a good project lead. I don't know if they were giving me criticism on my work or if they don't like me as a person and so they're harsh. And you can change that to being more like, okay, you know what? I will take all of these and these are points that I will learn from and make sure that I don't make the same mistake again. It's that you want to change the frame of how you talk to yourself and what power you're giving others. Reward yourself. Celebrate your successes. This is something that we, and especially as women, are really, really bad at doing. We minimize our successes. We keep telling others, no, it was nothing. I didn't do anything. Oh, no, it's okay. Oh, I think I just got lucky. No, stop doing that. You get something, you get an award, you get a promotion, you've gotten a bonus, celebrate that success. And it doesn't have to be like huge party, let's invite everyone. It's more of like small rewards. No, I did well today. I feel like today was a productive day. I'm gonna reward myself. Maybe I'll have an ice cream. But say it out loud so that you are hearing it. Give yourself little pats on the back the whole way through. Because if you are not your best supporter, it's going to be hard to find others. So you need to get to that point. Visualize. This is another big one. So instead of thinking of the worst case scenario, oh my God, if I'm a bad project lead, then what will happen? And instead of thinking about how bad you will be, think about how good you can be. What changes do you want to bring in? What kind of project lead you wish you had, but you didn't? So what steps can you take to improve that? And there is the very stereotypical fake it until you make it. And to a certain degree, this is not about just standing up straight or standing up, the power pose component. It is a little bit more of like, you don't feel like you're intelligent enough, fake it. Because everyone else around you knows that you're intelligent enough. You don't believe it. So you need to fake it until your brain starts to believe it. And a lot of this is not easy to do. This is a lot of internal work that you have to do. And I am someone who's suffered from imposter syndrome throughout my PhD and my postdoctoral work. And then when I took my first lectureship position, I didn't think I deserved to be there, but I did. The biggest thing that I can tell you about how do you combat imposter syndrome, take a compliment. It is uncomfortable. As women, we are trained and raised with the mindset that you should not be, if someone says something nice to you, don't take it in. You don't want to become arrogant. No, take a compliment. Don't come back with like, no. Don't say that. Someone says something, say thank you, and sit with that discomfort and think, why is this making me uncomfortable? I did do well. I deserve to be told that I did well. We all need to hear good things. If you only hear bad things and you only internalize those negative criticisms, any positive that's coming at you, you put a mirror at so that it reflects back. It's not coming to you. So sit there, someone gives you a compliment, be uncomfortable with that and just say, thank you. So that is the formal part of my talk. I don't know how much time I have left, but I see that there are questions. And if you do want to get in touch with us, I have put up our social media pages. And then I also have my email address, which is just my first name dot last name at lotusstem.org. You can always get in touch with me or find me on LinkedIn.
So you can take your time in answering the questions. That won't be a problem. A lot of the questions are similar, so I've posted the ones that I thought were a bit different.
Mhm.
And this talk is being watched in like 7 different communities. So I'm basically just checking everywhere to find questions for you. So these are the questions that I think you should definitely answer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so the first question, I think I have a problem with taking compliments. Why do you think this happens? And it usually feels fake to me. Oh my gosh, okay. So this comes back to that last point that I said about take compliments. It is really, really hard to take a compliment because we have been raised with that. First of all, many of our parents did not raise us with showering us with compliments. A lot of times it was like, why aren't you doing this? You should be doing this. And we've gotten into this mentality that if someone gives us a compliment, it may make us arrogant or it makes us feel really uncomfortable because did they really mean it? Why why do they why are they noticing this? Did I do something that is wrong? Like maybe they mean the opposite and they're just trying to be nice and it's that fakeness. I like to always put this into context. So my counselor actually helped. So I did 3 years of counseling because I had a very depressive state because of my imposter syndrome. And my counselor put this in perspective for me. Think about it. When you give someone else a compliment, when they have done something or they've been productive or they have worked really hard and did a really good project, when you give them a compliment, are you giving a well-meaning compliment or are you trying to make fun of them? And if you are someone who really are giving a well-meaning compliment, why do you think that everyone else is trying to be fake about it to you? And it's because we have created this mindset and we've been raised with this mindset that no, you shouldn't take a compliment. Do it, take it, sit with that discomfort. Think about why is this making me so uncomfortable? What don't I like about it? And if it's really bothering you, maybe go talk to them. Find out more. Why did they give you the compliment? Can they elaborate? Can they elaborate on it? I hope that helps a little bit. And a lot of this work is very individual. It's you have to do the work yourself. There is no easy switch that you can make. It's recognizing and realizing. And sometimes it can take years, but it's also recognizing that it's okay to feel like an imposter at times. You just don't want it to get to a point where it's hindering you from going forward in your career. Why is it scary to say that I can lead a project or a team? I seem to think that I will be rejected. Don't understand my reluctance, even though I have experience. This is the question that pitches fact versus feelings. The fact is, and you said it yourself too, you have enough experience, but you feel that you will not be able to lead a project or a team. It's scary because it's new. It's scary because it's a challenge. It's scary because our natural evolutionary instinct is fight or flight. And a lot of times it was like, we don't want a challenge. But challenges are good. Challenges are what help you grow. So if you start to change the mindset and say to yourself, okay, if I am a project lead or if I am a team lead, these are some of the changes I want to make, or these are some of the changes that I want to bring in. I really like these components that have been done before, and I will continue to do those, but I want to bring in these changes. Something that feels like you. Sometimes you just have to dive into that deep end and float. And floating is enough before you can actually start swimming. So it's getting that experience. Don't expect that you will be perfect the first time. You may fail, that's okay. It's a learning opportunity, and those are the big ones that you need. How can we manage our Desi culture as it induces a lot of imposter syndrome? Yes, family and cultural expectations that can lead to imposter syndrome. So I've given a little bit of that example where I always get told, like, I want my kids to be the best. And it's a wonderful thought. Every parent wants that, and every parent cares. Every parent loves their child. Your siblings love you, partners love you. They want the best for you, but they don't want to be challenged. So in our Desi culture, there's always this idea that no, you can't balance the two things, so you should focus on home more. There's nothing wrong with you wanting to be successful at work and having a booming career as well as manage home. You can do both if your partner is willing to help you in doing both. That's a big part. So how do we manage our Desi culture? This is a question that I don't think I have an answer to because I have not figured it out. And if someone has, I'd love to hear it. Because it's true, in our Desi culture, there is so much pressure put, especially on women. You must be perfect, you must be artistic, you must dance, and you must be good in education, you must be a homemaker, you must be a good cook, you must raise the children, you must take care of parents, you must be the one that's responsible for everyone's health. If you do anything, then the whole family gets affected. And somehow, somewhere, women get lost in this whole equation. At what point is the woman's dreams and hopes important? So yes, our Desi culture really does induce all of these, like, you're not meeting up to these expectations. You're being pulled in 10 different directions all the time. So you never really feel like you're good enough, or you're meeting expectations, or whatever you did was perfect. And then you still get that criticism. And it is at some point sitting down and talking to your close family and just being like, I can't do it anymore. I really can't. I had to do that. I actually did that with my parents. I've done it with my partner. When we first got married, the first 6 months, the fight that we had was, I am a postdoctoral fellow. Sometimes I spent 14, 16 hours in the lab, and then I would come back home, and I still felt the need that I needed to cook. I needed to make sure the house was clean. And I had to have a talk with him. Actually, it wasn't a talk, it was a full blown, I'm crying and shouting at him and being like, I'm not your maid. And I needed to do that. And he needed to hear it so that he knew how he could improve and help me in that situation. If I had never said anything, I would have just fallen deeper and deeper in this negative mindset about it. Again, like, I don't really have an answer to our Desi culture. Our Desi culture is really complicated. There are things we love about it, and then there are things that we wish we could change about it. And these are changes that will happen over time. I don't think it's something that will happen easily. Do you think we let ourselves over mentored because we think we're not good enough to do something or take a lead or faith? Do I think that we let ourselves get over mentored? Now, it depends on what you mean by over mentored. And it depends on what you mean by mentor itself. My definition of mentor is someone who listens to you, will give you advice, respect the decision you make at the end, and will also help advocate for you and provide you opportunities. That's what a mentor should be. They shouldn't be people who put you down. If you mean mentor as someone who is trying to tell you what to do and give you too many directions, then that's not necessarily a mentor. That's just someone who's trying to, they may have your best interests at heart, but they're not really letting you grow and make decisions for yourself. So to a certain degree, it does depend on personalities as well. Some people like to have constant direction, and some people who want to take direction are too afraid to, or sorry, some people who don't want to take the direction, but are too afraid to go off on their own. There is that that intersection there. And so, yeah, we can fall under this trap of constantly being told what the next step should be. And it's that word should. If you remove should out of your dictionary, you either do it or you don't. And what's the worst that'll happen? And it's really like take on opportunities so that you have that growth. You're constantly challenging yourself. You're not going to be good at everything. We're humans. We're not meant to be good at everything. Everyone has limitations. So again, like I'm not too sure about what over-mentored means, but I will say that you may not believe that you're good enough. But if someone is telling you, I think you are, and here's an opportunity that I think would really work for you or you would be great for, maybe take that leap. Someone's putting their faith in you. They must be doing it for a reason. It comes back to fact versus feelings. Do you think my obsession with work is part of imposter syndrome? Yes. Imposter syndrome will make you feel like whatever you do is not good enough. And so you must work harder. And when you work hard, if you still get criticism, okay, you're not working hard enough, so you must work even harder. Oh, there's still criticism that's coming. It's still not perfect. Oh, I need to work even harder. Let's cut back one meal. I don't need to eat 3 meals a day. Oh, I don't really need 6 to 8 hours of sleep. I can manage with 5. Oh, you know, I really think that going to this movie is going to make me, well, we can't go to movies, but watching this movie and taking a break, like, I'll put it on in the background, but I'll continue working. All of that is part of imposter syndrome. It's because you don't believe that you deserve to be there. And so now you're hellbound on proving that you do, but everything that you do in your mind doesn't seem good enough because it can't be possible that other people get criticism too. You are the one getting criticism. So now you're going to work even harder and harder and harder, and then get into this mindset of obsession. And I do that. I do that with my nonprofit. Oh my God, I don't stop working on it. But I also recognize I need to take a break. And it's when you take a break or when you listen to people and get into a healthy rhythm and a healthy schedule that works for you, that can help break that cycle. And it's hard. It is really, really hard to do that. Women in Southeast Asia have extra set of hurdles. Yes, we have to prove everything to everyone in our families and even in the communities. How can we change this? Oh my God, that's the $1 million question. How can we change DC mindsets about everything that women need to be doing? And this goes back to that idea of like women being pulled in 10 different directions. And it's not just in Southeast Asia. I can say that even when it comes to white people in Canada, it's an issue that keeps coming up of like having to keep proving yourself over and over again. So not only are you proving yourself at work, you're also having to prove yourself at home that you're capable of doing all of this. I don't have an answer on how we can change this. I do think that we need to bring more men into the conversation, and men who are willing to listen, and men who are willing to stand by and be allies. We need more of those so that they can go and speak to other men as well. And it's also how we're raising our children. We're raising our girls and our boys to fall under those stereotype mindsets, or are we raising them in how do you live life and be successful? So certain life skills and managing house, if your son is moving away, is he going to be able to manage his home? Does he know how to cook? Does he know how to iron his shirt? um, why are those just women's jobs? Those are life skills at the end of the day. So it's going to be change that is happening, but slowly. um, and it's continually having those conversations. I think those are so important. Do you think it affects our mental health? I am in depression because of that. Yes, imposter syndrome can get really, really bad. And as I mentioned, I went to a counselor for 3 years because my imposter syndrome during my PhD was so high that I was depressed at that point. I used to go to my counselor and I used to talk about, I can't write my thesis. I was so like debilitated that I couldn't get out of bed and sit in front of a computer and write for days. The only time I would get out of bed was to go brush my teeth, grab breakfast, and then lie back in bed. I couldn't do anything because I'd gotten into my own mind so much about how difficult writing is. I'm not a good writer. Other people are good writers. I don't know what I'm doing. Why did I fall? Why did I decide to do this? I don't deserve to be here. And that negative mindset kept coming back. And so I had to see a counselor. And for 3 years, I had to do that work and learn, what do those burdens look like? What am I doing to my body and my mind when I keep talking to myself that way? And one of the tricks that she told me was, when you speak to yourself like like you're speaking to a 2-year old. So anytime that you have done something and it doesn't look perfect, or there is a mistake in there, instead of scolding yourself about it, talk to yourself like you would to a 2-year old. A lot of times when we speak to 2-year olds, we're like, it's okay, you'll do better next time. But when it comes to ourselves, we don't say that. So try to teach your mind um, tactics on, or not teach your mind tactics, but learn tactics on how do you talk to your internal voice, how do you keep that in a positive sense. And you're not going to be positive all the time, not at all. It's just recognizing that there are times that you will be positive and there are times that you'll be negative, and it's okay. You have to have that balance. And if you like, please feel free to contact me and we can have a discussion about the actual like depressive state that you can get into when it comes to imposter syndrome and what that manifested for me. And we can have a conversation between you and I about it. What if a person always feels to prove themselves in whatever work they do, and that often leads to that person being a perfectionist? Yes, perfectionism is a huge part of imposter syndrome. It's that idea that everything that you do has to go out perfectly because no one should realize that you may not deserve to be here. And because you think that, it leads to this constant obsession of like, I need to make sure this is the best version that goes out. No one should say anything negative about it. If no one ever says anything negative about something, we would not have change. We will not have growth. We will not know how to improve ourselves. You need to start thinking about your workplace as a community. And if your community is saying something, is it for your betterment or is it something that is going to be harmful? The criticism you're getting back on your work is something that is going to improve it. You take it, you learn from it. The criticism you're getting back is really making the work worse. You can argue against it. It is really, if you fall in that trap of everything needs to be perfect before it goes out, yes, that leads to imposter syndrome. And this can be something as simple as like emails, obsessing over emails and sending that perfect email out so that you make sure that it is like the person has gotten everything. And like, if you've ever sent out an email where you spend half an hour, 45 minutes writing those perfect 5 lines, and you get that 1-word response, you're just like, okay, pisses you off. You've worked so hard on this. But then you get into this mentality of like, okay, I need to make sure that this email going out is perfect. It is representation of me. Your work is not you. You are an individual. Your work is your work. It is one aspect of you. It is not you. It doesn't define every part of you. There's that falling in the mindset of perfectionism is also whether or not you think that being successful means reaching a certain bar. What does that bar look like for you? And it's a lot of like figuring this out for yourself. And I'll finish off with this. So my postdoctoral fellowship, I mentioned that I switched fields, and I've got a lot of that pressure, expectations, perfectionism, criticism. I didn't know what success felt like for myself, and I fell into this trap. So for 2.5 years, I sat with this mindset, everything that I said is wrong. Anything that I produce may not be good enough. I'm not working hard enough. So I started spending 27 hours in the lab at a time. I put my health on hold. I put my sleep on hold. I put my eating habits on hold. I put my relationship on hold. That's what imposter syndrome can do to you. And you really need to work and look deep within yourself. Why do those things matter? So I'd really, really emphasize work on defining success for yourself. Once you have that, write down what are facts about your career and what you feel about your career. And see, do the facts back up your feeling? Or do your feelings back up the facts? What can you improve on? And definitely talk with people. And with that, please feel free to reach out to me at any point, and all the social media handles are here.
Thank you so much for your time, Rupali. So I'm going to share the link with you as well so that you can share it with your community.
Yes,
Um, we shared it with a lot of women-based communities on Facebook so that a lot of women can participate. Thank you so much for your time, and we'll definitely invite you again to talk about something else. Yeah.
of course. And I hope this was helpful to a lot of
Yes,
the women.
definitely, definitely. So, because when I started talking to people about it, a lot of them were really interested in this idea of someone who can share their personal story with imposter syndrome, and I think you did just that, which is extremely important because when people when you share your experience, people can definitely relate and learn from it. So I guess
Yeah.
that was really great. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Goodbye. Thank you.